Hi, I'm Monika Bohm, and in this video I will be talking about why monitoring is important for conservation and some of the ways in which we can do this. In order to actively and effectively conserve the natural world, we need to know more about it. We can do this using a simple framework called the State Pressure Response System. First, we need to know how biodiversity or our ecosystems are doing. This will tell us, for example, if a species like the tiger is declining. The graphs that you're seeing here show trends over time in tiger numbers, and as you can see, these show clear declines. We can monitor trends in both species and ecosystems, for example, by counting the number of nesting females or the number of nests for a species such as the green turtle, or by estimating or measuring the extent and quality of habitat, for example, in the case of a mangrove forest. This is the state, and we take this into account when setting conservation priorities. We then need to know more about threats, the reasons why a species or an ecosystem is declining. For a species, this might be due to overexploitation or disease. For example, we might measure overexploitation through the number of confiscated tiger parts or pangolin skins, both of which are often used in traditional medicine. Or we might measure the pollution levels in our rivers or the number of invasive species in a specific ecosystem. This is the pressure. Understanding this pressure means we can decide on the appropriate conservation actions specific to the threats which are affecting our species or ecosystems. When we do conservation on the ground, we also need to understand and track how effective our actions are in terms of combating pressures and improving the status of species and ecosystems. We need to know this so if something isn't working, we can change our actions to be more effective. We might do things like upgrade the protection of a particular area, for example, turning it into a national park, or we might want to restore degraded or fragmented habitat, for example, planting mangrove forests. This is the response. It's important that we're able to measure the state pressure response of our biodiversity or ecosystems, regardless of whether we're looking at a specific habitat, like the Amazon rainforest, a specific species, like the tiger, or even a whole species group like freshwater mussels, which make great indicators of the state of our freshwater systems. Measuring state pressure response really lets us know what needs conserving, why, and how effective we are at conservation. This can also work as an early warning system. So if a species suddenly declines rapidly, for example, like the mountain chicken frog, which is critically endangered on the IUCN Red List, because of volcanic eruptions and particularly fungal disease, then we know that we have to take action quickly. You can see that monitoring is a vital part of the conservation of biodiversity, ecosystems, and natural resources. This is also the case in a policy context. For example, global environmental agreements set certain targets for the conservation of biodiversity, which then need to be achieved by the parties to the agreements. These are essentially the countries which have signed or ratified, so consented to, these agreements. For example, the Convention on Biological Diversity, or in short CBD, has set targets for the protection of biodiversity. So how do we know if we reach these targets, or if not, how far away we are from reaching them? One way is to track changes in extinction risk over time. As we saw in the last video, the IUCN Red List of Threatened Species provides us with a means of assessing the extinction risk of species. To date, more than 75,000 species had their extinction risk assessed, and repeating these assessments means that we can track changes in this extinction risk over time. Another way is to measure population trends from species around the world. This is what we're currently doing, using data of more than 3,000 species of vertebrates, so mammals, reptiles, amphibians, birds, and fish. This is called the Living Planet Index. The 2014 Living Planet Index showed a decline in the population of these species of 52% between 1970 and 2010. We can also use this approach to assess changes in different systems or habitats, for example in freshwater systems, where we have seen 76% declines in vertebrate populations compared to 39% declines in both marine and terrestrial systems. We've already seen that biodiversity, so life on Earth, and the ecosystems that it is part of are vital to our continued survival. So these early warning systems are crucial for us to take urgent conservation actions. You've now seen that we do have effective ways with which to assess, track and monitor the status of our species and ecosystems, the threats they face, and the effectiveness of our conservation work. Now take the learning check to test your knowledge, and in the next video find out more about the value we place on nature.